Okay, welcome back. Hope you're suitably refreshed after the lunch break. What I'd like to do is to introduce our next keynote of the day. So the first presentation of this afternoon. So we have Natalie from Avaya, and Natalie is going to be exploring powering CX with EX and looking at some of the best practices to improve the contact center and employee experience. So without further ado, I'll hand over to you, Natalie. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Jonathan, and hello, everyone. Thank you very much for the opportunity to talk to you today. As Jonathan said, I'm Natalie Keightley, Senior Director of Solutions Marketing here at Avaya. And today I'm going to do just that. I'm going to talk about how in this experience economy that we live in today, our expectations are changing, not only as customers, but as employees too. And I'm going to share 5 best practices that you should be able to action right now to make the experience for your customer service facing employees a much more positive, a much more powerful, and hopefully much more productive experience. And in so doing, help them deliver exceptional customer experience that's fit for today's new normal. So before I do that, however, let me just very quickly introduce Avaya. Now, as we know, organizations today are really built on the experiences that they're providing, and millions of those experiences are being delivered by Avaya every single day, because Avaya is connecting people, it's connecting customers, employees, and users in ways that offer much more immersive and more productive, and very importantly, more memorable experiences. So we're helping to address what's next for the future of work. We're doing that through innovation and partnerships. And we're doing that in a way that delivers game-changing benefits. We're doing that with cloud communication solutions in a multi-cloud application ecosystem. And that is powering these customer and employee experiences. And through that, Avaya is helping organizations to grow and thrive by delivering experiences that really matter. So, you know, as we live and we work and we consume in this experience economy, what we're finding is that every single day, technology is helping to break some of those preconceived ideas that we've had on what's possible, and none more so than what we've seen during the outbreak of this pandemic. But the real question for many organizations today is really, what are customers looking for? Now, the answer to that from our perspective is very simple, because customers today want everything, and it's constantly changing. It's constantly moving. This is something that Gartner refers to as the everything customer. Sometimes they want to serve themselves. Sometimes they want to interact with a human being. Sometimes they want the information used to personalize the service to them, to proactively send them information and offers that might be relevant to them. But other times they berate the organization for not respecting their privacy enough. Sometimes they want to interact through WhatsApp, through Facebook Messenger, through Alexa, but sometimes they want to resort to the good old phone. So, you know, quite simply, what customers today want is to be connected, but also left alone. They want to be treated equally, but served uniquely. They want everything to be fully featured, but they also want it to be effortless. And they want a consistent and expected experience, but they also want to be pleasantly surprised by the unexpected. So the bottom line really is that they want a lot, and delivering on those customer experience ambitions is more difficult than ever. So, you know, one of the questions is, how do you serve the needs of the everything customer, and what defines their experience? Well, first of all, it has to be memorable, because it has to be differentiated from every other experience. It also has to be effortless. In other words, it needs to just happen. It needs to be easy. It needs to be proactive. It needs to be consistent. But equally, and very importantly, that experience has to be organization-wide, because when it comes to shaping the customer experience economy, really the customer's perceptions and their related feelings are a result of not only those one-off interactions, but also the cumulative effect of all the interactions they've had with the organization, with all its employees, across all its touch points, across all the interfaces, systems, products, and services. Now, this exact same is true for the employee experience, because employee perceptions and feelings are the direct results of the one-off and the cumulative interactions that they have with the employer, with the customers, the partners, the leaders, the teams, the processes, the tools, the applications. Mercer actually suggests that organizations should be treating their employees just like customers. Firstly, they need to be gaining really deep insight on employees' pain points, on their needs, and then they need to develop employee journeys that are going to deliver the right experience for the employee. So there has to be this relentless focus on not just the customer, but also on the employees that are serving those customers. Because at the end of the day, customer experience and employee experience, they're just kind of two sides of the same coin. You can't have a connected customer experience without a connected employee experience. And organizations really can't design employee experiences differently from the customer experience anymore. So when organizations focus on the employee experience, there is absolutely no doubt that it's going to deliver better results because the employees are more engaged, they're more empowered, and in being so, they'll apply more discretionary effort in everything that they do, and that in turn boosts the customer experience and the results. Now, some research from Gallup said that satisfied employees are 3 times more likely to solve customers' issues and problems than employees who aren't engaged or who aren't motivated. And Gartner takes it a step further because they've actually done some research and found that companies that are investing in the employee experience are more likely to be more profitable on a per employee basis. And not just by a little bit. I mean, they're reporting 4.2 times higher average profitability for organizations that are focused on the customer experience than those that don't. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's easy to do this, right? Because organizations have to work really hard to keep employees happy and productive because they've got so many choices. Now, obviously, with COVID-19, it's moved the needle a little bit in terms of employment and unemployment rates. But most organizations pre-COVID were finding it pretty difficult to attract and retain key staff. And the reason for that is because today's world is more about staff deciding who they want to work for rather than the other way around. And you just have to look at applications like Glassdoor, for example, which gives ratings on who is the best organization to work for, to know that it's fundamentally changing the recruitment process. So the bottom line in all of this is that if organizations really care about their customer experience, then they need to care as passionately about the employee experience. And to do that, they've got to work really hard to keep employees engaged, to keep them motivated, to keep them productive. Now, organizations that do this right are going to generate significantly higher levels of productivity, profitability, and customer experience improvements. But equally, organizations that don't are going to find that they bear significant expense associated with poor employee experience, because it has such a big impact on things like attrition. Now, we all know that contact centers are one of those industries that's affected always by huge attrition rates. And some research done by the Chartered Institute of Personnel and Development estimated that the cost of replacing a frontline agent in the UK was over £6,000. Now, for a contact center that's got approximately 125, 126 agents, this translates into more than £200,000 a year in attrition costs. Now, this is a pretty big number to bear, but it's not just the hard costs associated with attrition. It's all the other impacts it has, the impact on productivity, on knowledge lost, the cost of overtime for other staff that have to pick up the slack, the impact it has on employee morale in the contact center, the time and the cost it takes to recruit and train and bring new agents up to proficiency levels. And all of this, of course, is impacting on the customer experience at the end of the day. So, with that, there's a number of things that organizations can do to address the employee experience. And one of the biggest factors that can impact the employee experience is the tools that they're given to work with, the tools that they use to work with customers, interact with them, and resolve their issues. Now, given all the technology we've got at our disposal today, and with the huge increase in the digital dexterity of the average employee, which is now such a critical skill in the workplace, there are many, many ways that customer services functions and customer experience centers can improve the employee experience with technology. And in fact, when you're evaluating your technology purchases, the impact of any technology on the employee experience should be as critical a consideration as the customer experience and the operational considerations are. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to share 5 very practical best practices that we've seen our own customers use, that you too could really start to use today. And all of these are underpinned by technology to help improve employee engagement and motivation, and in so do deliver better experiences. So the first one is really, and this is possibly one of the most effective ways of improving the employee experience, is to play to employees' strengths and to make the most of what they're good at. And given the importance of the human touch in delivering the right customer experience today, leveraging not just agent skills, but also things like their personalities, their behaviors, their performance attributes, that can make a huge difference to any interaction. Now, one way to do that is to leverage a technology called behavioral pairing, something that Avaya offers. And unlike traditional contact centers where customers are traditionally routed to the first available employee that has the right skill set, what behavioral AI pairing does is it identifies subtle but also really valuable patterns within human interactions, and then it intelligently matches the customer and the employee. And it does this because it does the following things. First of all, it's behavioral based. So it's analyzing past and trying to predict future behaviors for both the customer and the employee. It's data driven. So that means it's leveraging information from internal systems, so your internal databases, your contact center systems, your CRM applications, but it's also bringing that together with external third-party sources. And because of that, it's value and outcome orientated, because what it's doing is it's taking external data like somebody's profession, their credit card usage, their travel habits, their income band, and it's coupling that with internal customer information like how long the customer has been a customer of the organization, how often they contact the organization, what their purchase history is. And it's using all of that to then make the best possible match for the best possible outcome. So the best employees are then used to handle a particular customer interaction. Now, those employees may not always reside within the contact center, of course. And so you can use the business rule engine within this behavioral pairing to actually pair customers to the unique needs of subject matter experts that reside outside of your contact center. So now you're connecting customers with like-minded employees, you're driving more successful interactions. That in turn leads to more measurable increases in enterprise productivity and profitability, and it creates long-lasting value, not just for the customer, but for the employees too. Which then leads on very nicely to the second best practice, which is all centered around the workspace, because you need to be able to give agents technology that works for them. And that means giving them everything that they need at their fingertips, including the knowledge, their subject matter experts, the applications, the data, the real-time insights, so that every single engagement can be positive and it can be effortless. Now, one of the reasons that this is so important is because despite the huge increase in digital and online activities and the huge investments that have been made in things like virtual assistants and automation for customers, there's absolutely no doubt that human interactions still matter very much in the customer journey. And in many cases, that human interaction is through your customer services agents. And that makes them very much the face of your brand. But here's the issue. This has also made their jobs much harder, because agents now have to deal with the more complex, the more emotionally demanding interactions. While one of the biggest challenges they still face is trying to find accurate, available, accessible information, resources, people quickly. And that is really difficult when you've got impatient customers waiting. So whenever you hear an agent say something like, "I'm really sorry, my system's running slow at the moment," guess what? It's not. What they really mean is they're scrambling around to gather all this information. They're jumping from one application to the next. They've got windows open all over their desktop. Now, 84% of agents actually say that the desktop tools that they're using just aren't effective for dealing with customers. And they have to navigate, on average, 8 screens when serving a customer. So it's really not surprising that 1 in 2 of employees report having problems finding the right answers to solve customer problems. So, you really just need to look at the increase in recruitment for mental health first aiders in the contact center to realize the impact. And the cost to the organization is massive. An average 300-seat contact center could lose nearly $1.6 million in productivity alone when employees are forced to jump from one screen to another. Now, it's really easy to fix because, taking something like a comprehensive unified desktop that's underpinned with things like knowledge and artificial intelligence, something that Avaya delivers, can actually proactively serve employees with everything that they need at their fingertips. It gives them access to all the information, the knowledge, the applications, the resources within a single workspace, irrespective of where that data is housed or which system is managing that data. And the information and the knowledge is coming to the agent proactively and dynamically. It's personalized to the context of the interaction that they're working with. And it allows them to focus on the things that really matter: the human touch, the personal touch, the relationship management, the brand engagement, all the things that deliver a more memorable customer experience. Which leads me on to the third best practice, which is really about infusing customer-centric collaboration everywhere in the organization. The future of work in this digital workplace is all about collaboration. People coming together with the right skills to solve problems collectively as a team, rather than working as individuals. And customer experience is absolutely at the core of this, because when things go wrong, when they get emotional, when they get complex, customers want to talk to someone in the organization who can fix their problem immediately. And they don't care what that person's title is. So bringing collaboration through team efforts is critical to frontline staff. Now, in order to do this, it does mean that things like functional, resource, and application silos have to be dissolved. And that means that the lines between things like sales and marketing and customer services have to be blurred, because delivering a memorable experience is about getting the best resource and teams engaged, regardless of the function that they belong to. It also means that lines between job roles and responsibilities need to blur, because everyone in the organization should really be directly or indirectly customer facing. And it also means the lines between applications and things like data stewardship need to become less important, because the focus instead really needs to be around giving the right insights when they need it, to whom they need it, accessing the right capabilities, leveraging the right tools. Now, again, technology from Avaya can help here, because when agents need to find, let's say, a subject matter expert that sits outside of the contact center, Avaya technology can help them do that. Not only find the right person without actually having to know who that person is beforehand, identify their presence to determine whether they are available to interact at this time, and then actually, irrespective of the collaboration application that they're using, bring them into that interaction in real time, and if necessary, even bring them into a 3-way conversation between the customer, the agent, and the back office expert. Not only that, but doing things like just taking contact center capabilities like routing and workflow and starting to infuse those throughout the organization outside of the contact center, making things like back office resources and insights and capabilities available to contact center staff. All of these things can make a huge difference to the customer experience and to those serving them, and help them work as a team towards the right goal. So that brings me to the next best practice, which is about giving every employee a digital coworker. Because it's really important to highlight that coworkers and team members these days are just as likely to be digital as they are human. Which is why Avaya really recommends giving every single agent a digital coworker to help them do their job even better. Because we've talked about how the human touch matters, and it's what humans do really well. And so, by providing agents with digital coworkers, they can focus on the things that the technology can't do as well today. They can focus on the customers, on the relationships, on interpersonal elements, because customers really do notice when employees are focused on them rather than being distracted by trying to find information, by some pending action, by accessing other systems. So while they focus on the customer, they can rely on their digital assistant to help do other things, other time-consuming things that would otherwise take their attention away from the customer. So things like analyzing the interaction. Is it going well? Is it going badly? Do we need to change the way it's going? Surface hidden or unseen issues or insights, understanding what this customer might be needing, suggesting next best actions, and of course, very importantly, taking corrective actions in real time to support the agent. So, just a very quick example. If during an interaction with a customer, the agent seems to be battling or the customer's getting agitated, the virtual assistant could step in. It could alert the supervisor to join the interaction. It could present up a summary to the supervisor very, very quickly to bring them up to speed. And essentially, it brings the supervisor into the interaction to help the agent in real time without the agent having to do a thing to ask for it. And if all of that's not enough, then you can really help contact center agents by letting virtual assistants do some of the things, the really manual, time-consuming activities that agents have to undertake with every single interaction. So automatically inserting transcriptions of the contact, of the conversation into the CRM system. And such like activities could save the average contact center agents up to 65% in their after-call work. And that's huge. So that brings us on to the final best practice, because this is really about addressing the agent's needs. They need to be able to balance work and life effectively. And this is why we recommend making working anywhere a permanent fixture if you really want to engage your contact center staff. Now, there's been very significant shifts in attitudes towards work over the last few years, and that's been further accelerated by COVID-19. So much so that a recent report by Nemeritus found that key verticals like retail and healthcare are actually considering allowing their employees to continue to work from home post the pandemic. And 57% of those companies are saying they believe it's going to make a huge impact to the quality of life of staff like agents, and could actually lead to reducing some of those attrition rates that they battle with. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that remote working is for everyone, but making it an option really does open up a lot of choices. Not just in terms of opening up a much wider talent pool, so the ability to be able to increase the team or find really hard to find skills, but also it accommodates this new trend that we're seeing in contact centers, which has come about because of the gig economy, and that is the gig agent. Just take an example of a working mother. If she's got working from home, she may prefer to have 3 much shorter shifts starting early morning and running through to later in the evening in order to accommodate her children's schedules, rather than one long shift in the middle of the day. Now, this not only benefits her as the employee, but it could also help the organization in preventing some of those things that we were talking about earlier, like agent burnout, and being able to address things like peak periods and seasonal demands. Now, again, technology can play a massive role with this. And again, Avaya can help with this. In fact, 34% of companies said that during COVID-19, they found that the technology has actually worked far better than they originally envisaged. And here are some examples of how Avaya can help organizations. Things like, applications like desktop and process analytics, really allow your supervisors to do things like a virtual walkabout of the contact center, because they can track things like what applications the agent's using, how are they using them, how long are they using them for. And that can help them to identify things like training gaps, process breakdowns, issues with compliancy. Not only that, but the applications like gamification can help bridge that physical divide, because it can help contact center managers better communicate goals. They can acknowledge achievements within the team. They can motivate their teams, even if those teams are physically dispersed. And of course, things like workforce engagement management, which offer things like access to schedule information over mobile devices, enables virtual employees to access really important schedule information so that they can do things like request schedule changes, or they can bid for shift changes, all of which is really important. So the technologies really mean that companies can support their contact centers employees to work from home, and can give them the right solutions that will enable them to do that productively and effectively. So I think by now it's clear that employee experiences matter even more now as part of our new normal, and that customers will be one of the main beneficiaries of this. And in order to provide better experiences for your employees that will then translate into better experiences for customers, 5 best practices you can do is find the perfect match between the agent and the customer. Make knowledge common knowledge by making it readily, dynamically, and proactively accessible in a single workspace. Infusing customer centricity everywhere so that every part of the organization is accessible to the customer journey. Giving every employee a digital coworker to help them focus on the things that really matter, which is the customer. And making working from anywhere a permanent fixture to help employees do that very difficult balance between work and life. Now, how can Avaya help? Well, we believe that we've got the capabilities, the technologies, the services, and the brand that can help organizations really transform their employee and customer experiences, because we provide all those elements that focus just as much on the employee experience as it does on the customer experience. Now, we're a progressive innovator, and that means that our technology is built to shape and mold to the new, to the future continuously. We're constantly evolving, we're constantly innovating. And Avaya One Cloud is built on exactly that premise, because there's no boundaries to what can be achieved, because it is a multi-cloud application ecosystem. And it's focused on 2 key futures. The future of the customer experience center, in other words, helping to empower those customer advocates that form a part of the much broader organization to help them deliver the best customer experiences, and in so doing, experience great experiences themselves. But secondly, it's focused on the future of work, introducing new ways of work to be productive across the entire organization. And we're doing this by providing 3 solutions. Avaya One Cloud CCaaS, which is all about powering the customer experience center so that you can provide customers and workforce solutions that connect and orchestrate all those touch points across the customer and employee journey, regardless of what they are, while leveraging the power of things like AI and insights and knowledge and resources from across the organization to deliver the right experiences. It's doing it through Avaya One Cloud UCaaS, which is providing the communication and team collaboration capabilities fit for today's digital workplace, so that employees and teams can meet, they can collaborate, they can communicate naturally and easily, without boundaries, without time limitations, without physical constraints. And finally, it's through Avaya One Cloud CPaaS, because we provide a development environment that enables organizations to really communications enable their workflows and their applications, so that they can very, very quickly infuse real-time seamless communication tailored to their specific needs across their organization. Avaya One Cloud is a multi-cloud application ecosystem, and it brings together the benefits of not just Avaya capability, but also the capabilities of our partners, as well as some of those leading cloud platforms out there. And it does this in order to help organizations power more memorable experiences, experiences that matter for their employees, for their customers, and for their users. So if you don't believe us, then believe the analysts, because here are two great accolades that really highlight Avaya's leadership in the customer experience and their workforce engagement space. The first is Aragon Research, the Aragon Research Globe Award for Intelligent Contact Centers. And the second is the Frost & Sullivan Radar Award for Workforce Optimization, Growth, Innovation, and Leadership. Both of these awards highlight our leadership, not just in customer experience, but in the employee experience as well. Now, it's been my absolute pleasure talking to you today. I hope you've enjoyed it. My contact details are on the screen right now. If you'd like to know more about how Avaya can help your organization deliver experiences that matter, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. And I really do look forward to speaking to you again. With that, I'm going to hand back to Jonathan for any Q&A. Thank you, Jonathan.
Brilliant. Thank you, Natalie. So if you've got any questions for Natalie, please do put them into the chat, and we'll happily go through them. Okay, so whilst we wait for those to come in, I think certainly very interesting. Happy employees equals happy customers, but also vice versa as well. So I think it's the yin and yang, isn't it? You've got to, when you're designing these journeys and flows, they've got to be seamless, and they've got to work for both parties, really, haven't they?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's a few things that really need to be considered for both employees and customers. It's about making sure that experience is consistent. There's nothing worse than an inconsistent experience. And, a great example of that is when you see, go and try to return something that you bought. You might have been really easy to buy it, but returning it, if it's not that easy, then the experience isn't consistent, pure and simple. It's got to be personalized. And that means it's got to be personalized for the customer. It's got to be targeted to them. It's got to be customized for them. It's got to be memorable, but equally for the employee. Depending on the work they're doing, depending on who they're engaging with, they've got to have a space that's personalized to that and contextually rich. Yeah, it's got to be effortless. It's got to just happen. It's got to be proactive. And that's not just for the customer, but that's for the employee. That information should be finding them. They shouldn't have to find the information. And these are really important principles for organizations to think about when they're looking at the employee journey and they're looking at the customer journey, because you're right. Yeah, it is two sides of the same coin, and it's the yin and yang, and one plays off the other. So both of them are equally important.
And I just wonder what your thoughts are around how far off we are seeing real-time personalization, not just across digital channels, web platforms, but also other digital interactions, and indeed voice. How far off do you think we are from personalizing the approach, the messaging, the content, and enabling employees to sort of match and understand persona and deliver that highly personalized service? Honestly,
I think it's here now. I really do. I think organizations are tapping into the power of this. We were looking for a coat for my son the other day, and we walked into a shopping center, the first time that we've done it since the pandemic, and immediately we were getting pinged by favorite brands as we walked into that shopping center, because they had outlets there. So, I think this industry, this space is moving at a phenomenal rate. The main thing is, with all the choice out there, you've got to make the experience memorable. And in order to do that, you have to personalize it. There is no doubt. And it has to be done in the moment that matters. Because if we'd walked past the shop into one of our other favorite brands and found the coat that my son was looking for, too late for the other ones that were notifying us right now that, they had something on offer we might be interested in. So I think this idea of when is it going to happen? It's now. It really is, because you have to make every single moment with that customer matter. And that means differentiated experiences, personalized experiences, memorable ones.
I think, again, what's important for that is consistency across channel as well. So if you're able to deliver that personalized experience, in the moments, then it's about how do you ensure that, irrespective of which touch point and how people might move from one to another, how that personalization experience follows. Because this is one of the biggest challenges, I think, with customer experience is inconsistency, effort and inconsistency, really.
Absolutely. And, we operate in a world now where it's not about the channels. It's about the whole journey. It's about every touch point. It's about every modality. It's about every time I interact with that channel or that customer journey, maybe for a different reason. And I'm adopting a different persona each time I go in. 1 minute I'm doing it as an employee, the next as a consumer, the next as a user. It has to adapt. And that is really critical, because it's about that consistency across everything. It's not the channels that matter anymore. It's understanding the customer, the employee, the user. It's understanding every touch point, every modality, every persona, and bringing all that together to be consistent.
Yeah, definitely. So do we have any questions coming in? I think it's a fascinating subject for sure. I think, we're seeing where we're at today is I think the technology is really accelerated. The adoption of the technology has also been brought forward, I think, many years as a result of the way in which we're all working today. And it's not just a case of enabling and supporting home workers. It's that focus on delighting customers, and of course then the need to look at efficiency and effectiveness. Those two things go hand in hand. It's not just about cost saving, as you rightly said. It's efficient and effective interaction and fulfillment. So I think the technology is there now to be able to support it.
Yeah, and I think what's really been one of the surprising outcomes of COVID, one of the very positive but unexpected outcomes of COVID, should I say, is that it's proven to many organizations that the technology is mature enough. The technology can actually work. A lot of times, in the past, we've seen organizations go, well, we'll try that here, we'll do a bit of that. What COVID did was threw everything up in the air. Nobody ever thought they were going to be staffing their contact centers from home. Nobody thought that. Nobody necessarily could foresee that actually things like AI and automation were going to become one of the most critical things to their business to enable customers during this time. And but that's what happened. And the technology was put to the test in a way that was unprecedented. And it achieved the results. I think it's phenomenal to see how many organizations are saying, I don't think I want to go back completely to the model I had before, because now I'm realizing there is a different way to work and I can make it successful. So very different times, really exciting times. And I think all that does is we thought the pace of innovation on technology was fast before. I think it's just going to keep accelerating now.
Yeah, no, I agree. Well, thank you very much, Natalie. Really insightful, really interesting. I hope you all enjoyed Natalie's presentation. We're videoing the sessions. We'll make slides available. Please do visit the booths. And if you've got any further questions, please drop them into the chat stream. And if we don't answer them in the next couple of minutes, of course, we'll come back to you and answer them moving forward. So thank you very much for listening. Natalie, as always, thank you. Great presentation, very insightful. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. It's been a pleasure. Bye-bye, everyone.
Thank you.